So
Okay,
currently streaming. Let's
so
see
we are
if we're live.
streaming. We're live?
We are live.
Okay. Welcome to the Polygon Forest. My name is Chris Jarvis. I'm an indie dev, and joined with me, as ever, is Ubisoft concept artist Vin Hill. Vin, hello.
Hey Chris, how's it going, man?
It is going well. I can see that we're live because I've had a little buzz through on my little Twitter thingy.
Yep.
I will retweet. I will go through what we're going to talk about today.
Cool.
Today, we are talking about Boyfriend Dungeon and the Twitter storm surrounding the release and the game and the content. Rainbow Six Extraction, you had a new video from your game that you've been working on, which looked really cool.
Well, it wasn't me, but yeah,
I've had a little. I thought you're an indie guy.
It's just
over
me.
There
It's just
you. And Gamescom, because I missed Gamescom, so you need to tell me about that.
Sure.
But first, Vin, what have you been playing?
This week I've been playing a brand new game called 12 Minutes, which just recently came out. Which it's sort of indie-ish, I would say, but it's got some really high-profile sort of actors and actresses that worked on it. So
Yes,
yeah, I think
Daisy Ridley.
Daisy Ridley. I always forget her name. Yeah, and then
James
James
McAvoy.
McAvoy and also William Dafoe. So three like major sort of headliners like playing in this thing. I have to say the performances are excellent. Like they're really really well done. It's fantastically sort of acted out. So yeah, hat off to them. I can't knock them for it.
And it's a top down time loop sort of game.
Yeah, that's right.
Where you've got multiple endings and multiple narrative strings and
yeah, basically
things can happen.
you're thrown into the deep end on the game. So it's like you said, it's a top down point and click sort of action adventure game, if you will, but it's sort of like a rogue light also at the same time, because it's basically an endless time loop game. So you play out like so you play out like 10 minutes or 10 to 12 minutes. It's not always
it's called 12 minutes.
It's called 12 minutes, but it's not like you don't actually play for 12 minutes. You only play for like 7 or something. It's weird.
There's a countdown timer until the resets, right?
Right.
So that's
countdown time and resets. The scenario that you put into, which I can't explain without any spoilers because like it's straight out of the bat. You go home with and you sit down with your wife. It's like you're celebrating something, and then there's a knock at the door. Basically, you're eating dessert together, and then there's a knock at the door. You open the door, and there's a policeman there, and he accuses your wife of murder, and arrests her. Like he handcuffs her, and then as you're like saying you've made a mistake, like this isn't right, like you've got the wrong person. As this happens, he just walks over to you, and then he kills you. Like he just strangles you to death, and that's it.
Ah, okay.
And then the second that you die, resets to you walking through the door, and you're like, oh, sort of thing. And you have to replay this scenario. But within this 12 minutes, you can walk around the apartment. You can do different things. You can mix and match certain elements. Like you can just kill your wife if you want to and stuff. Like there's a load of weird, dark sort of stories, but it's like you're slowly unraveling like why the police, why the cop has actually showed up, and like things about your wife, things about yourself, and just like you're slowly bringing this story around of like why why this sort of stuff is happening to you. So it's an interesting sort of case study of a game in that respect, so it's
Have you seen have you tried to get some of the endings? Because I've read about it, but I've read nothing that's spoilery, so I don't really know what the story is, but I've read that there are lots of different endings, some of which are surprising, some of which aren't as surprising.
Yeah.
One of them involves just standing still and doing nothing for 12 minutes.
I haven't actually tried that one, but it wouldn't surprise me if there was something there. But it's
pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting sort of game in that respect. Like it goes places which I've never really thought about a game ever going. So it's really cool in that respect that I actually
I want to see the making of this game. I want to play it as well. So I've got that morbid curiosity because I've heard that the ending isn't very satisfying. It's a bit I want to use a good word here. I can't think of a good one. Unoriginal.
It's not that it isn't unoriginal. It just like the whole game is like set like really realistically, and it's hyper realistic, and everything is like okay, you can imagine the scenario happening and playing out and things like that. But the ending itself is sort of like completely unrealistic and bananas and really wild. And it's like I'm not going to spoil anything in case people do want to play it. Like some people have really connected with it, and there's a lot of great reviews out there. But I think I'd sort of fall into the other column of, you know, it's like, yeah, you know, it wasn't really. I don't know. It just didn't feel.
It looks to me like an art piece. Like you got these actors doing like a piece of high concept art, like a performance, and that's what it looks like to me. I really want to play it. Yeah. I think it feels like I've heard it's one of those games where, you know, gamers should play this game regardless of whether or not
it's a short game.
Gonna like it or not.
You can play it in an evening. Yeah. You know, like there's some people.
It's on the Xbox Game Pass.
It's on Game Pass as well. That's actually the main reason why I jumped in on it. I probably wouldn't have bought it. Which is a testament to Game Pass, really, if you think about it. You know, like the fact that I could just download it in 15 minutes and then have a crack at it. I spent an evening playing it.
Yeah.
The biggest criticism that I've got about the game, outside of the actual story itself, is towards the end, because you're on this time loop sort of thing, when you're trying to figure certain things out. It's great when you figure stuff out. You're like, okay, I'm going to try that. I'm going to experiment with this, and you do that. And it's different every single time, and it's great. But you get into this moment where towards the end of the game where you're not figuring anything out before you do it, sort of thing. So you're just trying stuff instead. And then when you get into this sort of weird loop, no pun intended, of just doing the same thing over and over again in 10-minute blocks, it gets really, really frustrating, because you're just like, okay, what the hell am I supposed to do here? And then the thing that sort of triggers the next event to sort of push things along, they can be sometimes really obscure and something that you couldn't have figured out. It's just something that you just have to sort of trial and error your way through it, and that becomes incredibly frustrating from a sort of gameplay standpoint, which is a shame. But that's the main point of criticism I would have about the game.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it sounds like it's new or fresh, different.
I'm glad they did it.
Games exist, yeah, but this looks like it's an interesting take, because time loops went out of fashion, you know, with films and stuff, but then there's been a couple of ones. There's that rom-com with Andy Somethingberg.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, the guy from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, right?
Brooklyn Nine-Nine. That's a good film. I like that.
I haven't seen that. I really wanted to see it.
And there's another one, actually, another rom-com that I really liked. I can't remember what that's called. The soundtrack was great. Man, I can't remember.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a few of them. I mean, I remember watching, like, years ago, like, a really bad Adam Sandler one called 50 First Dates, and that's sort of like a time loop thing. But yeah, fascinating game. I think everyone should try it, especially if you've got Game Pass. Like, absolutely nothing to lose, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
You can play it. You can play it in an evening. If it doesn't connect with you, then, you know, more power to you. But I think it's definitely an interesting look into. We should be doing this sort of thing more, you know, like these sort of high-profile games, which are a lot smaller in scope, and we can really focus. Because all the game is like you're literally in a living room, there's a bedroom, and then a bathroom, and that's it, like from the top down. Like there's very little sort of content, for lack of a better term. But the actual, like what you actually do within the space and how it's reused and utilized is really clever, and there's a lot of different things that we could do with this sort of stuff, and it's very interesting. It sort of gets my ideas flying as well in my head, like whenever I'm thinking, you know, like you can really reuse spaces. Like I don't know why in video games we're constantly looking for new environments and stuff, not to just not for the sake of reusing content, but just the whole idea of
exploring having a space to explore different options within.
Because by the end of the game, you have like a load of, like, you know, every single square inch of the apartment basically, and you know what to play with and how to play with it. And it's probably why, like, I got frustrated like by the end, is because like I knew the place so well that you're, you know, like, okay, I know all the places, but then you don't know all the places because like the story evolves and there's certain things that are happening and things like that, and it's just it's very, very interesting sort of piece. That's the best
Everything
way
I hear about it. It all sounds intriguing, and So I can't wait to get 2 minutes to myself and.
How about 12 minutes? You should get 12 minutes. You see what I did there? Yeah. But what about you, man? Like, let's get out this suffering pun that we're sort of dragging out here over 12 minutes. What have you been playing?
Yeah, well, I have been playing. So I was playing some more of the F1 game, F1 2020.
Yeah.
But I have been playing the Ghost of Tsushima expansion director's cut.
Oh, okay.
With Iki Island, and oh my god, it's surpassed all my expectations.
Really?
I was just expecting some cool little stories, maybe a few more pieces of armor, maybe a few more bits and bobs. I knew about the animals, stuff like that, but man, it ties. It enriches the rest of the game, and so it uplifts what you'd already played. It's not an extension. It's not like an add-on. It reminds you of it. I don't know what they're doing. They're like doing crazy magical things over there. Like it's got so much to do with the game, and it's almost like they knew how long it would be between people played the game and then came back to it and revisited it. I must admit, when I picked it up and I had everything, and I was like, I should have been like the Don at fighting. I had to really get back into it. Had to really get used to the controls, because they were throwing me back into it with everything unlocked, and so I didn't know how to use any of it because there were so many options, so many choices. So it took a while to go back in and explore all the different combat options and feel like I was a proper Don again, a proper boss, because I was just getting killed left, right, and center. I was like, oh, okay, gotta spend some time. So a tutorial would have been nice. But yeah, the story is just so well done. They're so clever. The music is just, there's so many cool little riffs and little ditties and little phrases which have lots of meaning and relate to the island and the animals and the story and his journey and his past. And and it's been so calming. Like, I'm going through a house move at the moment, so it's the most stressful time. And whenever I play the game, I always finish and I feel so zen and chilled out, even if I've been like chopping heads off and shit like that.
Right, I was going to say, you just got to go kill some Mongols to chill out.
Yeah, gonna like chop some heads off and like run people through with my samurai sword. But at the same time, I'm sat there playing with my little fluty thing, like beckoning monkeys to come eat some fruit out of my hand and stuff like that. And
So can you just like where is the sort of entry point of this? Like, can you just select Iki Island from the main menu, or do you have to go somewhere and do something at a certain point within the main game? Like, what is the entry point?
There's like a little mission that you have to trigger before you can go there. Yeah. And so there's a little mission that starts off the story, and then that triggers you to be able to go over to Iki Island. And then once you're on Iki Island, you can't really get off until you complete a big chunk of it.
Interesting. So you can't just jump back to the main island and carry on with the story. You have to stay there.
I don't think you can. I've not actually tried, to be honest. I've had a look at the map, but no, I don't think you can go back. I think you're trapped there. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. So how long have you put into it then? Is it a sizable chunk, or have you finished it yet, or what?
I think I'm 3/4 of the way through, and I've put in about 4 sessions of a few hours. So there's a good double digits of hours of content there.
That's cool,
I'd say.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize there was puzzles and stuff. Have you seen the shrine? Have you seen this on Twitter? Everyone's saying about the God of War shrine.
I've seen a couple of little things, but I try to keep away from it as much as I can. Like you're free to like talk about it and stuff.
I've been spoiling it because I've been posting on Twitter my pictures.
Whenever I see it, like I've gotten quite good at sort of masking out that stuff at this point. So
you just eyes go blurry, just keep scrolling.
Yeah, just whatever.
Yeah, nope. Don't want to see it.
I think that's from like years of playing video games, so I'm not sure if that's like anything specific to Ghost of Tsushima, but yeah.
There's like these shrines which are new, and they relate back to Xbox games. So there's like a God of War shrine. There's like a Shadow of the Colossus
PlayStation games.
Shrine.
You mean? Sorry.
What did I say?
You said Xbox games. That would have been funny.
They do not like relate to Xbox games.
Master Chief Shrine.
Yeah, and what else? Nothing.
Deep cut, Chris. Burn. There's Gears of War in there. Like there's some.
Oh yeah, Gears of War shrine. That would be good.
Yeah, Forza Horizon. I don't know. There's something in there.
Racing car, and like pre-industrial. Anyway. No. So there's like Shadow of the Colossus, God of War, and 2 other games that I can't remember.
Cool.
And so they're like shrines that relate back to these PlayStation games.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that they're puzzles. So you've got to do actions and wear certain things and perform certain actions, and you get unlockable armor, which is a nice little perk. So what I'm trying to say is they jam-packed it full of content. Oh my god, the the world building and the architecture and the different areas on that tiny little island. They've jam-packed it in. Do you remember we talked about how we thought they might approach the fact that it's a smaller island?
Yeah.
They basically went with, let's just jam everything in together. So you'll turn the corner and then it will just be this totally different landscape. And there's this one massive mountain that you can climb up. And if you look down, you go, oh, that's the purple bit, that's the burnt bit, that's the canyony bit, that's the foresty bit. And it's all just
super condensed
within like the space of 2 football fields sort of thing. It's
That's
funny.
great.
But when you're playing it, you don't notice the transitions at all. It's uncanny. Yeah, I'm loving it.
Cool. Yeah, no, it's something that I've been meaning to get around to. I've already bought it. I've got it installed. I booted up well, I'm gonna play through the main game again, but I'm not gonna do absolutely everything like I did last time. Like I literally like any single dot, like, and I platinum that game, and yeah. So, but there was like this weird annoying moment which you probably had as well. Like if you transfer your save over to the director's cut, it's just like all the trophies start triggering, like they do on the PS5 anyway.
That didn't happen for me.
Yeah, because
is it because you played it on PS4 and then you?
I think that's what it is.
PS5?
Yeah.
Right.
So when I booted it up, it was just for a good 20 minutes. It was just
bling bling bling
bling
bling
bling bling. And on the
You can't turn
PlayStation
off the
5,
settings.
I think you can, but like by that point, I was just like, oh, whatever. And I was just like carrying on playing. It took a good while for them all to it. Like, it's the worst complaint in human history. I understand.
Yeah.
But,
I kept getting too many achievements.
right. Oh my god. Yeah.
I platinumed it, and now I can. That's reminding
That was
me that I platinumed
like
it.
that was happening, but it was just yeah. I'm gonna play through the main game again without like doing absolutely everything. I'm just gonna like beeline the story and then get to the Iki Island stuff because I'm really interested to see where it's gonna go. But I can't even imagine like going back and playing that game at like 30 FPS at 900p. Like just the game's absolutely stunning. So it's I'm really excited to replay it.
I'm blown away with the visuals on that, so I can't even imagine what like extra frame rate and textures. I mean, the textures look great.
Textures didn't change. That's one thing they didn't change, which I was a bit sad to hear that. Really, like I thought they would have pushed that a little bit further, especially because of the price tag that's on this thing. It's an extra like $30 on the
for the PS5 version.
For the PS5 version. I think it's 20.
I think it's like 20 quid. Yeah.
20 for the PS4 version if you're upgrading to Director's Cut with the Iki Island stuff. But for the PS5 version specifically, the fact that they're even charging for that, like outside of the Ikushima stuff, it's sort of interesting that they didn't do more with it.
Yeah.
In that respect.
What is that money going?
Right. To Sony's pocket, basically. It's kind of weird. But it's a very strange sort of thing that we're in at the moment where paid upgrades is sort of, I go back and forth on this because we've never really had this instance happen before. It's just that because Xbox is doing everything for free at the moment, that's the only sort of comparison that everyone's got. So everyone's looking at that and being like, wow, they're doing everything for free, you should do everything for free, which that's not how capitalism works, and the free market and all that sort of stuff. So like
Xbox are making their money somewhere. Yeah,
right.
It's called Game Pass.
Yeah, exactly.
That's weird. The thing is, this is an end of generation video game. It was released at the end of the console generation. It's the best that they can squeeze out of the console. No one's had time to work on the PS5, so I'd be surprised if anything other than frame rate would be there. So like, I'm looking at it now going, wow, this is freaking amazing, because we've had 7 years of progression to get to this point. So
yeah, I mean, this is the part which I sort of go back and forth on it with, is that like people are complaining about paid upgrades and stuff, but then you look at games like The Last of Us Part 1 on the PlayStation 3 that came out, and then 6 months later it came out on the PS4 as the remastered version. Technically a paid upgrade that costs $40 for a whole new game. I double dipped, so I'd be a hypocrite if I said that was a bad move, but like that was the norm.
You can regret it.
Yeah, sure, I can. But I mean, that was the norm before this generation anyway. It was just like you would get two versions of the same game, like one for the previous generation, one for the new generation. So the fact that we're in this weird place now of like upgrades and DLC and like being able to patch things and update them, Like
The
this,
Last of
this
Us
is
is
all new.
different though. It's different because the amount of time that's passed between when the first Last of Us came out and when the remaster came out, there was enough time to justify the fact that there'd been technical advances since then. And you just literally can't say that with the director's cut. The amount of content that's in there, it just looks like they carried on making it and then just released that, which is really clever. But I think that it's a reaction to the situation that we're in with COVID and lack of titles at launch and things like that.
I mean, we've spoken about this before, but like this whole situation that Sony is currently in, I think this is a problem that happened like a year and a half ago. And then now, because games development takes a long time, and they sort of know in production year like where a game is going to land and how it's going to hit and what's going to hit and what's going to land where. And I think like their release window, like the second half of their release window for the PlayStation 5 probably looked good like 2 years ago, but then when COVID hit, they was like, oh crap, okay, the latter half of 2021 is looking dry. We need to fill this with something. So that's when they started talking to Kojima Productions. Hey, make a Death Stranded director's cut. Hey, Sucker Punch, this Ghost of Tsushima game looks amazing. Like, make sure you start.
Can you have more?
Can you work on stuff, and then we'll do a director's cut afterwards. Like, these are decisions that weren't made this year. These were decisions made last year at some point.
Yeah, at the start of COVID. Yeah.
Yeah. So like they would have been preparing this for a while. It wouldn't surprise me if there wasn't more on the way. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if we didn't get a Bloodborne director's cut at some point. There's things like that. It's just it makes sense. They're trying to fill this gap that they've unfortunately inherited from this pandemic. They've got to fill it, and this is a clever way, to be fair, of filling it and making some money off it. That's like, it's gross, but it's business at the same time. Like, it can be gross and be good business at the same time, and it kind of is. Like, I go back and forth on this a lot.
There are there are benefits, and there are sleazy capitalist pockets being lined in some ways.
Absolutely.
And some people love one and the other. Like, one person's capitalism is another person's like, oh my god, I'm getting all this art, even more content than I could ever hope for. So it's tricky to see where that line is between exploitation and just common sense and capitalism.
Absolutely.
Did you hear that Halo's not being released with playable co-op or Forge mode?
I did hear that. Yeah.
I think again that's because of COVID.
They're getting out the door. Like, it's either, do you want this thing delayed until the start of next year so you can get the stuff in, which people probably aren't really going to get their hands dirty with until next year anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, people can complain about that and say, oh, they should have more content. It's like, yeah, it should have more content. But if it has more content, then it'll be delayed into next year. And if it gets delayed into next year, then that means the game will make half the money, because people don't buy as many games
after the holiday season.
Which is something that we're even contend with on Rainbow Six Extraction at the moment. Like, that's a very viable, like, sort of argument of it's a huge issue. And like, if you're Microsoft, like, you're not willing to take that risk. Like, what feature can we cut and put in later on for free as an update? Features that people probably aren't, there isn't like hordes of people out there being like, I can't wait to play this game and co-op with my buddies. Like, I'm sure there's a few, like, there's obviously edge cases to this, but the vast majority of people are just going to play the single player.
Just want to play the single player campaign and the multiplayer.
Yeah,
online.
Even if even the single player, like, if like that, probably, like, most people are probably just going to jump straight into the multiplayer. Like, that's just the hard truth of this,
Yeah.
And so, like, if they have to make cuts anywhere, like the fact that Forge and the co-op gameplay is getting cut, it's not really cut, it's just getting delayed out of the actual game, and they're going to patch it.
I think that's fine. I think that's clever. I think that's the most clever way to upset the least amount of people.
Yeah, they chose the right features to move out, in my opinion. So, like, I've got no problem with it. Anyone else that does is, they're free to their opinions, but I just don't really see if it's worth delaying the game into next year, especially like when we're in a new age here. Like, we can't update games, we can't patch them. I'm not talking about like bugs and all that sort of stuff, but
day one patch is a standard now.
Yeah. And people have got to square with that. They might not like it, but this is the world that we live in. Like, and it's a really interesting concept that we can just remove whole features that might delay a game out of a season instead of forcing them in just to, like, get the game out.
The alternative is just wait. like you don't get to play it.
Yeah,
that's the alternative.
And
so,
this is the new third option now. Like we either delay the game into the next year, or we release the game as it is, but it's probably going to be in a buggier state. Or the third option is we just remove this feature out, release the game in the same window with less bugs, and then put that new feature in later on.
No Man's Sky is a great example of under promising and then over delivering
later on.
No, over promising, under delivering initially, and then over
delivery all backwards
after the fact. They got slated for it, and rightly so.
Oh yeah, without doubt.
They said this was going to be released on this date, and that wasn't. It was bare bones for years, which is crazy. And then all the updates came along, and people got back into it.
It's a massive community of it now, and it wins what you call it, like best live game of the year, like quite often at a lot of these awards, or like a best game, best live service or something. Like ones that they're still updating it and they're keeping on top of it, and they I think in terms of redemption, No Man's Sky is like it's
a great example of
crown and achievement of that.
Yeah, it shows what we can do with games. It's one of those examples where it's like the opposite of Cyberpunk. Like I hope Cyberpunk can turn into I hope Cyberpunk is the next No Man's Sky, where they keep working on it, keep polishing it, keep updating it. Yeah. But as far as I'm aware, all the updates that come out are still game-breaking bugs.
Yeah, it's going to be like that for years. Unfortunately, I mean, this is the case with The Witcher 3. Like, the last time I played The Witcher 3, it was 5 years after release. It was the first time I played it, and it was still buggy as hell. So if that's anything to go off, I wouldn't expect Cyberpunk to ever be in a perfect condition. Honestly, I'm not in a bad way. I'm sure it will get to a playable condition, but it's never going to get to a perfect place ever.
No. Well, what is no? You shouldn't aim for perfection. What they say, you should aim for 80% done.
Yeah.
And maybe just their 80% looks like 60% to us.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think when they release like a next gen version and it's got all of its patches, all of its like free DLC packed in, I think it will be worth it. I think it'll be.
I might go back in there and have a look.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely missions I never played first time round.
I never played it. Oh, you're talking about The Witcher 3, sorry.
Yeah, The Witcher 3.
Right, yeah. I meant like
there's going to be
there's going to be a next gen version of Cyberpunk as well.
Yeah. Definitely I will. So. I will at some point. You mentioned Rainbow Six Extraction.
Yep.
Because that had been delayed, isn't it? But then there's been a video that's come out that shows a lot more content than before. I was really excited about the video. I wasn't expecting. I was blown away by what was there on the E3 video.
Yeah.
And then it comes along and says, "Oh, there's like how many characters are there? There's like freaking loads of characters.
Yeah, I can't
loads
remember.
of unique abilities."
I don't want to give out a number because like the number changes internally. It gets bigger and bigger every time. So I'm not like I don't want to undersell it sort of thing.
Oh, there was they were on the video. They said a number.
Yeah, they gave a number. I can't remember it like off by heart. So
okay, that's a lot.
I'll put it on in the background while
they've all got they've got unique weapons and unique abilities, which is really cool. And I love the fact that you can't just pick one person and stay with them, because I think what's going to happen is if you do that, eventually that person is going to be the person that needs to be extracted. So you're going to have to spend time on other characters, because if you're playing a game, one of the characters of that number are going to need to be rescued, which is the aim of the game, I think.
Yeah, and like literally extraction.
Yeah, extraction, and the fact that the enemies can come through the walls, and some of your players can go through walls, and therefore, you can't walk on some like some floors. And the fact that means that you can't just get the replayability is what they were kind of driving with that video.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Like the whole, because it's tough to read the comments on this thing because they're positive and the game is being received a lot better now. Which is like, I'm not sure if it's too little, too late sort of thing. Remains to be seen. But the thing that crawls me more than not crawls me, but the thing that sort of gets to me is like, oh my god, this looks so much better now. Like you've added so much stuff, and there's a lot of that sort of talk, and it's like this.
It was always there. We just didn't tell you.
It was just like the blunt end of it is the game was not marketed very well, and now that they're starting to catch up and figure out like how to actually market this game properly,
Right.
People have
Or was
started
it supposed to
realize.
be like teaser to get people interested, but people had the other idea and thought, oh, there's not much to it.
I guess.
And now,
I mean,
I don't know.
yeah. I think because you sort of have to come out the gate at this point with all the information on this type of game. I think that's what the marketing team probably realized at some point. I'm not in
Okay.
communication with them, obviously, but yeah, it's sort of a separate division to the development team in that respect. So it was, I think they've picked up their stride on how to sell this thing properly now, and like the reactions to it are a prime example of how they're a testament to that. So
Okay, that's cool. But yeah, it just looks great. It looks I'm just blown away by all the different features and stuff like that. So that's good news, and I hope that you're in a better place with that now then with the video.
yeah. I mean,
when's it coming out?
January. That's
January.
It hasn't been given an official release date yet, but that's the window that's been given. I don't think they've landed on the right weekend for it yet or something. Like,
Okay.
we'll see. Like, if it is a weekend, God knows. They like where we find out that stuff like the same as you guys. So
Yeah, because they don't bother telling the concept artists. That sort of
why
stuff.
would they do
No,
that?
Don't need to know.
I'm not worthy.
I like the cool trap that like the yellow mesh where you can trap one of the.
Yeah.
What are they called? Infected? What are they called?
Archeans, technically.
Archeans.
That's their real name, but it's like the aliens, the zombie alien things. With like,
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to give them a proper name, but yeah.
Archeans. That's cool. Yeah, I like that. You can trap them in like in one of the mission modes, which means you got to get them to like run after you, I suppose, and then go where you want them to go. And yeah,
there's a lot of
that
them
sounds
different
really
types of missions that you can do, and just like add in the replayability of that sort of stuff. But yeah, I mean, we're still going to get criticism either way. There's still going to be people out there that say, "Oh, you're just milking it and making game modes that you have to replay over and over again." It's like, yeah, it's that sort of game, guys. You know,
Yeah,
like,
that's
like, that's
right?
what you do.
Isn't that good?
Right. It's like what you do in
Like
Call of Duty. You shoot
replayability.
dudes. That's it. That's all you do.
Yeah.
Over and over again. Like just different maps. And it's like, oh, you've got 12 different maps and all you do is the same thing over and over again. I'm going to go and play Warzone instead. It's like, you know, it's crazy. But yeah.
Yeah, there'll be fans and there'll be haters.
Yeah.
And-
like I said, it remains to be seen. I think if this new marketing push will actually help the game, because we obviously got a lot of bad press during E3 and just seeing like that sort of side of it, and it'll be interesting to see if we can be able to turn around the messaging before the game comes out. We'll see.
That's interesting because I didn't hear any bad press, so I hope that it's just like the echo chamber and you're picking up on it, but it wasn't floating around on my Twitter feed, so that's good. But what was floating around on my Twitter feed and probably floating around in yours was this boyfriend dungeon.
I actually don't know anything about this, so this is all you this week, dude.
Oh, okay.
Please explain
Right, I'll
it
fill
to
you
me.
in. So,
Yep.
boyfriend dungeon. It's like it's sort of like cross between what looks like a dungeon crawler and like a dating game where you can date
I've
your
seen it.
weapons.
I've seen it on Game Pass, but I don't know any of the controversy. I don't know what it's about.
Oh, okay. So yeah, apologies. I wanted to do more research on this and I wanted to find out some more specifics, but I've been moving house and I've been super busy, so
Of course.
I didn't do my due diligence. So apologies. But
Rude.
it's like a dungeon crawler where you date your weapons, and the weapons have like personalities, and they have actors playing them, voice actors doing lines. There is a trigger. There are trigger warnings that put on at the start of the game.
Yeah.
One of them, which is a great touch, which I really liked, was, I think it says, a character called Mom, M-O-M, will be sending you messages in the game, like supportive text messages throughout the game. Do you want to turn this feature on or off?
Why is that a trigger warning?
Well, then I saw his tweet with like, I'm so happy that this was a trigger warning. My partner lost their mum, or if you had an
my
abusive
Lord.
mum and you just don't want to have those brought up while you're playing a game. And I thought, fuck, I never even thought of that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I agree with that, like, at all. I mean, cause like I know that might trigger some people, but to bring like a bit of a personal spin to this, my father passed away when I was actually in university, like probably before I met you, back in 2008. Actually took his own life. A really traumatic experience for me, but I don't, if there's any like sort of instance of suicide in a game or in a movie or something, I understand like other people might be more sensitive to that sort of stuff, but
Yeah.
if there's a trigger warning for that every single time, all you're doing is just reminding me of the trigger instead of just being like,
Here's the art,
right,
in its context.
Yeah, and like if
yeah.
I was constantly worried about that sort of stuff, then it would, I don't know how I feel about that, like being a trigger warning. You know, there's a lot more, because if that's a trigger warning, then there's a lot more things that you could put trigger warnings on.
Well, this is the question. Like, where does it start and where does it end? Where are we now?
That's a rabbit hole.
As a games, this is an indie game, and what? Well, I'll tell you the rest of the story. And you
please. Yeah, sorry, I kind of jumped in there, but go ahead.
No, that's perfectly fine. I mean, it kind of all ties in with the whole thing. So that was just one part of it. The major thing that actually got the Twitter traffic was there is another trigger warning on there. So they've got multiple trigger warnings for starters on an indie game, which is rare in itself.
Sure.
And I think what the trigger warning was, this is the bit where I didn't do the research, apologize. I think it was like there might be scenes of sexual violence in the game, or it was something about something that was alluding to the fact that it's about a relationship between two people, and it's not pretty, it's not good, it's not nice. That's the main gist of it. So there was a trigger warning. It wasn't a specific trigger warning to what got the Twitter storm going, which was stalking. So in the game, spoiler, but it's been all over Twitter, so yeah. Well, you didn't know, so it's a spoiler for you. Sorry, Ben.
Sure.
If you were
I'm probably not going to play it anyway, but yeah.
So one of the characters, with certain choices in the game, because you can choose to date or ignore some of the characters. I don't know what the option is, but one of the characters that can stalk you. So things like unsolicited messages, unsolicited gifts, things that stalkers do. Those sort of things happen in the game. Those specific things weren't a trigger warning. So there wasn't like unwanted gifts and unwanted messages will be right. And so some of the Twitter tweets that were tweeted had words like this: I've been stalked and this triggered me. So I didn't consent to this. So can you take it out of the game? So there were people that were saying, I've been triggered. This was brought back painful blah, blah, blah memories.
Sure.
Can you change the content? Some were saying, can you add a specific trigger warning in to say that stalking is going to be in the game? And the actual voice actor started to get like actual harassment, not just like you triggered me, this, that, and the other, but then also actually started to get like harassment as if they were the character and the person playing the game couldn't.
I really hate gamers. Like the older I get, man,
tell a difference.
Like it's hard, man. Like this
so,
is
what they did to react to that was, obviously the actor said, I can't believe I have to say this, but please don't harass video game actors. We're just doing a job for performance, you know. And the game, the studio said that they would be amending their trigger warnings to may include scenes of stalking. So yeah, I've got a few things on my opinion with that. Like one, we're not universal with trigger warnings in video games,
right? And
some video games can depict things that are way more bloody and violent and gruesome and disgusting. They've got age consent, various things. So we've got, we still got like the PEGI rating or whatever it is.
Sure.
But we don't have like trigger warnings, and this seems to be like a new fashionable thing. And it's almost like spoilers.
I think that there is a solution to this, and it's a very simple solution. It's just we haven't come together as a development community to sort of figure this out yet. And the solution simply is that at the start of the game, when you boot up the game, it's got, hey, there's trigger warnings in this game. Do you want to see the list of trigger warnings? Yes, click. And then it lists out the trigger warnings there, just as a list. Like this is going to be in this is going to be in this. And if you're a person that gets triggered by these sort of things, then you can look at the list like, okay, I see, never mind, now click, out, done, fixed, no problem.
Yeah.
People that don't get triggered by stuff, like myself, I just mentioned a moment ago, like about my father. Like
you don't get triggered.
If there were scenes of like suicide in a game, I don't automatically associate that to my own personal experience. I've learned to sort of extract myself away from that and separate it out. Yeah. So I don't need trigger warnings for that reason, which is to each their own sort of thing. So like I would just click no on that. I would never see any of that. There'll be no spoilers. Everyone's happy. Everyone's good. Like that would be the solution. It's just we haven't come together as a community, and the problem is like in this case is that they've made the very bad mistake of started listing out at the very beginning specific trigger warnings, but not included all of them. So therefore, like people are already primed for trigger warnings for triggers, and then they've excluded some of them. So now they're getting attacked for the thing that they tried to defend themselves against in the first place. Whereas like the irony of all of this is that if they didn't include any trigger warnings whatsoever in the start of the game, this controversy probably wouldn't have happened. You know, it would have just been like, oh, this is just another game with sensitive
lots of trigger warnings. Yeah. But the thing is, they originally had all the trigger warnings, so it's just like they're trying. It was like they're trying but couldn't. It's almost like they shouldn't have even bothered with the other trigger warnings because they were going to get brought over the coals. And it's one of those things. Games companies, they don't want to be the discussion. They don't want to be the hot topic. They want their game to be the hot topic. They don't want the studio to be talked about. They just want their art to be talked about.
Yeah, and I bet if you went and go and looked at all these people that have got a problem with any of these things, like if you go and look at their Twitter accounts, I probably love The Last of Us Part 2. And people are getting hit in the side of the head with golf clubs and stuff like that, and it's sort of like, okay, like where is your line here? Like I'm really curious to see, like, so you're only affected by things that personally trigger you, but everything else is all good.
Everything else is fine. Yeah,
weird.
Well, the other thing is like we don't have this problem with films. Like we've got age rating with films, and we have descriptions of some things, but I don't know whether or not is stalking one of those like warnings. Is that on there?
Probably.
I don't know.
I mean, if it wasn't, it wouldn't surprise me. But if it did, it wouldn't surprise me either. But yeah, I mean, that's because that in movies and game, in movies anyway, and they do it in game trailers as well, just not for the main game. Very strangely, like when they come up with the ESRB or the PEGI rating at the beginning, like they sometimes have the boxes with include sexual violence or like drug use and things like that, right?
Yeah.
And it flashes up on the screen. That's it.
I love mild peril in new films. That's my favorite phrase. Like, I'm in peril mildly
in peril. Yeah. Aren't we all? Yeah. Really? Aren't we all? But yeah, like I think that is enough in my opinion. Like that's like, okay, there's drug use and this flashes up on the screen. Like if you're making people like say yes or no to an agreement at the beginning, you're physically making them read through this sort of stuff. Like that is a spoiler.
Consent. This is a consent thing. Like one of the criticisms was, I didn't give consent to be shown this content, and it's like, yeah, you did. You've got a controller in your hand, or you're clicking buttons. You did. You did consent.
No one tied you to the chair.
Yeah. As soon as you saw it happening, you could stop playing the game. And then the counter argument to that was, yeah, but I paid for the media, so I paid for the experience that I didn't want. And then it's like, well, just because it's
give it a bad review.
Just because it's for an upsetting reason and something which triggers you and you've got problems with, that unfortunately that's just the reality of your situation. Yeah. Like, not everyone can be catered for when it comes to video games. Yeah. Sadly, we're not there yet, and I don't think we should be, because
no, we absolutely shouldn't.
At the end of the day, they're artists creating a piece of art for the observer, and you as the gamer, the observer, a part of it's all contextual, because I saw this great quote the other day. I think it's like every single piece of art you consume, you are a piece of the art. So part of you is part of the art that you're looking at. And I think that's totally maybe why these people are getting triggered, is because everything is personal, especially when you get into a video game. You feel so personal that it does feel like it's part of you. But
it's just a rabbit hole.
Living in the world, isn't it?
It's just such a rabbit hole.
Like, you've got to put yourself out there and look at media and absorb things. And yes, some people are going to be in a fragile state when they're playing X, Y, and Z, and they got to do what they can to avoid that. I get that, totally sure. But harassing voice actors is not the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you're just replacing one issue for another at that point. Like, to the people that are harassing the voice actors, like, screw yourselves. Like, get out of our industry. You don't belong. Sorry, you just don't. Like, I will never ever agree with any of these people. I think they're just scum. Like, I don't think they belong in our ranks. To the people that are just demanding that these games are changed, or like they should, like having more warnings is like that's a fair request. Like
Yeah,
that's fine.
it's not gonna hurt. It's not gonna hurt anything,
Yeah.
is it?
I mean, as long as it isn't in spoiler territory, and if it is, then hide it behind a menu like I suggested. And
I like that idea. That's a really good solution. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
Because I thought, where does it end? Oh, it contains scenes of this. It contains scenes of this. The third act contains scenes of this. And it's like, well, I already know the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, like,
So-
why isn't The Last of Us like got trigger warnings for has daddy issues? You know, like sort of thing. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like
Yeah.
where does
Yeah.
this end? You know,
Yeah.
everyone
I
can be
mean-
triggered by anything. I can get offended by stupid stuff. Like I get offended by boy bands. You know what I mean? Like they're just like we shouldn't have trigger warnings on every CD for that. Like it contains multiple boys that sing like
I
girls.
need a Justin
like no, I
Bieber
don't.
trigger warning.
Right,
Every time I turn on the TV and Justin Bieber's on there, it's like I didn't pay for this. I didn't consent to this.
Dude, I remember there was anyway. Thankfully, it's probably gone by now. But there was a Justin Bieber shop in Tokyo in Japan. Not even joking. You're already laughing. I remember I was sat on the train. There was a girl like sat opposite me, and she had like a Justin Bieber like store bag with her. She'd bought something like that. Should have a trigger warning for me because like personally, I think like I just wanted to like pull the bag out of her hand and throw it out the window. That's just me, right? And that's a personal thing. And I think that we need to treat like, and I'm making a joke of it, obviously, but like there's plenty of things in my personal life that trigger
could
me,
get
but I'm
triggered
not
yeah.
gonna automatically say, okay, that thing needs to change and not me or my outlook.
Around me. Yeah. Because that's the thing. Not everything can trigger. Not everything can be accommodated for everyone. That's the whole point.
Right. And it's impossible
because
to do so.
There'll be juxtaposed things. There'll be, oh, I get triggered by this. It's like, well, I get triggered by the opposite of that. Oh, well, where do we go?
Because when you start cutting content, or you ask, like, okay, the developer to put in an option to remove that content on the fly, sort of thing. It might be a core pillar of that game. It might be a core pillar of the story, and it's just like, okay, if murder or suicide is removed as a trigger warning because you've decided to remove it from the game, okay, the game is a murder mystery game. Okay, now it's about flowers, I guess. Like
this is another interesting thing about what the specifics of this one is, because it's about stalking, and yes, it's a real issue, and people have been affected by it, and it's terrible. But at the same time, people are playing games that don't have trigger warnings on for things like murder and stuff like that. Obviously, one's more common and one's more rare, so the amount of people that are going to be affected by like the murder side of stuff, it's a lot fewer. But you don't get all these people going, oh, X, Y, and Z was murdered, but this game contains murder. Let's not do that. Like that never happened for The Last of Us 2.
Right.
I thought The Last of Us 2 was too graphic. Like it was.
I agree. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, too graphic for me. Too graphic to the point where I don't think that the graphic nature was adding anything to anyone's experience other than
100%.
grimacing.
Yeah, but I would never go onto Twitter and be like, they need to tone this down. It's like if I needed it toned down.
I made some videos about what they should do to the game.
Well,
no, I didn't.
What
I did was I critiqued properly, where I go, this is a problem I had. If this had happened, I think this would have been the effect.
I mean, the difference is that if you're presenting in a personal opinion way, and you're saying, okay, I think that they should have done this because this is how it made me feel, sort of thing, instead of like trying to rally people around this quote unquote movement.
Oh yeah, no, I hate all that. I was just one guy saying one guy
right,
thing.
and that's the difference to me. Like you can criticize a game, you can give opinions about a game, no problem. I've got no qualms with that whatsoever. It's the people on Twitter that are trying to hashtag
rally up like a bandwagon
because they're trying because they want to bubble wrap everything, and it's like that's not how the world works, especially
for their agenda,
right? And because right now, like to be blunt about this, like the sort of the movement around mental psychology and just like sort of issues which people have got with psychology and all that sort of stuff at the moment, like therapy, and like it's become a very sort of prime sort of topic at the moment because, like, rightfully so, we should be talking about like mental health and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, the more we can talk about it,
and that's a good thing. But there's a difference between like, okay, we should get this out in the open and talk about it, and just bubble wrap everything away from it, because that's not going to fix this. Like, unfortunately, like there are instances.
I see what you mean with the trigger warnings, like the content, like editing out that sort of content for people means that they'll go through the whole life not processing that.
Right.
That thing, avoiding it is I don't think I mean, I'm not a psychologist, but I can't imagine any psychologist would be going, maybe try and stay away from everything that makes you feel upset for the whole life.
I mean, if I went through my whole life, if my father died and then straight afterwards I'd never heard about suicide ever again, not once. Like no one's ever done it, no one's ever heard of it. It's just not a thing. It's a thing that is in the ether now because I'm protected from it. The world is protecting me away from it. I don't get triggered by it whatsoever. Is that healthy? No, that's not healthy. The thing that helps people heal is to be blunt about it, is the confrontation of it in whatever small or big way, like just the acceptance of it in whatever way. I'm not a psychologist. I don't know. I can only go off my personal opinions and my personal experiences. But if it was completely sheltered away from me, I don't know if I would have ever dealt with it. You know, like it is the random instances of like seeing it in a film, or like I don't get triggered by it, but just like, there's that perspective of it, and I understand it a little bit better now because of like the way that they handled it or the way that they didn't handle it and stuff. Like, oh, that could have happened, this could have happened, all this sort of stuff happening together. And so it forms this new opinion of the instance in my head, whereas if it was just completely sheltered and I never like saw any of it, then I don't know if I would have ever. Obviously I can't speak for everyone, but like on some level, like I think the main thing that psychologists and therapists sort of try to get to the heart of an issue is to try to get the person suffering from the mental illness to actually like understand it and accept it and be able to deal with it in a way where they can process it in a healthy way. And if you just remove all of them things, then they're never going to be able to reconcile with it, and it could mess them up even more for all I know, you know. So it's really interesting, sort of, like I said, like we're bubble wrapping the world. We shouldn't be doing that. We should definitely include trigger warnings, but like if we're going to do it,
you've solved the problem, definitely. Because it's easily doable having just a menu, yes or no, to take you to a new menu of the list. I was thinking about, like, when this all happened, I was like, well, my game is quite it deals with grieving, so it deals with like the Kubler-Ross model of grieving, and I'll be doing the lines and reading it out, and it's basically some pretty heavy emotions.
Sure.
And I was like, what if someone gets like triggered by that, by like the performance and like what's written down and what the character's going through? And then part of me was going, yeah, but also it's just a ball floating through some other balls, so how can like no one can go, that affected me personally.
You can boil all video games down to that. Like, you can just say, The Last of Us is just a bunch of polygons and textures on a screen. Like, why would anyone get affected by this? And in 20 years' time, we're going to look back on The Last of Us Part 2, like, that looks crude as hell. Like, how the hell did we think that looks good?
Why did we ever get grimacing by that? Yeah, in 20 years' time, we'll be doing this podcast. I'm going, do you remember when we said that The Last of Us 2 was gruesome? And now we just laugh at it.
Yeah, man, have you seen The Last of Us Part 5? Now that was gruesome.
Now that was gruesome, yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. But then I thought, well, hopefully, if the game like does what I want it to do, it's the fact that they're having the connection with the medium and the the performance, which is the realness of it. And so on some way, I hope that people do get like upset playing it.
Yeah.
If they can get something out of it, if they can have that bit of human connection across the void through this medium.
Yeah, it's almost like people want to be this sort of, emotionless. They just want all video games to be fun, but then they also want video games to make you think about stuff, but they don't want you to feel emotion. Otherwise, that's bad. Especially if it's something that could trigger you for whatever reason. So it's this weird sort of tightrope.
That's the human condition in a nutshell, basically, isn't it?
Exactly. Like, I don't want a video game to make me feel anything, but I want it to
feel everything.
It's just like you can't have your cake and eat it at the same time. You just can't. Like, I'm sorry, you have to deal with this in whatever way. So it's a very weird situation, but
it's a tricky one.
Yeah, I think we
missed that. I thought that was everywhere. I thought everyone knew about that.
I guess I just wasn't in the algorithm for that one, but yeah.
That's fine. So we've covered that. We've covered Extraction. But I missed Gamescom.
You did miss Gamescom.
And we were talking before.
Yeah.
No Elder Scrolls. What? And I made you laugh again twice.
Yeah, I mean this game. Like I'm not going to say they announced it too early because I think they did the right thing to just get it out in the open and sort of let everyone know, like, hey, we're working on this. Let the shareholders know, because I think they were probably looking at the position, like, in retrospect. Now, that was long before Microsoft made the acquisition, and they were probably trying to boost up their stocks to see, okay, like to sort of get the price higher from Microsoft, if you will, which actually makes a lot of sense if you think about it now. When they announced a lot of stuff that year, they announced the Elder Scrolls, they announced Starfield, and I think they showed there was something else that they showed that was early in production, like way too early. But if that was them sort of bumping up the price for the Microsoft acquisition, it makes total sense now. But like the whole idea that people are like getting sad and annoyed that Bethesda aren't showing more of the Elder Scrolls every year, it's like, you do realize they've got a massive RPG coming out,
huge game coming out,
a little thing called Starfield, which, like, if you've never heard of it, then what rock are you living under? But they are not going to talk about the Elder Scrolls until that game is out. They just won't. They're not going to, especially because they're a similar type of game. They're RPGs. They're first-person RPGs that you wander through landscapes and you kill on various, probably aliens or monsters, whatever you want to call them. But the game loop itself is the same. They're not going to conflict their audience and not going to create self-competition for themselves. So they're just not going to talk about it until after Starfield's out. And the sooner people square with that, probably the better.
What did I miss from Gamescom?
You missed a couple of things. A couple of announcements, I guess. Like, the biggest announcement that they had was that Saints Row is coming back. So a new Saints Row game got announced. Looks a bit more serious, but also just as silly. I think they're sort of carving out this niche. They always have, I guess. Like, they're staying away from GTA and the likes of Watch Dogs and other open world sort of sandbox games like that. But it's not as crazy as something like Crackdown. So they found this nice sort of lane.
Towing the line there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. I think I did see something about that on Twitter, and people were discussing their direction. So that's good to see that they're
it looks fun.
They're doing that. I'm looking forward to that.
What else was announced? Midnight Suns is creating a new Marvel strategy game for like the XCOM creators, which is sort of crazy. So there's a
real time, like a turn-based.
So it's an XCOM game with X-Men in it. Basically, that's the best way. That
could be good.
That could be very good. I don't know. XCOM was amazing. It won Game of the Year. So who knows? That could be great. But other than that, there was a lot of. I don't know. It sort of felt like the release date trailer convention. That's sort of what it felt like, like towards the end of it, because every other trailer was like, hey, this game that you knew about is the release date for it. It's like, okay. So it feels like clean up on aisle 9 from E3 a little bit in that respect.
Right.
But so Halo Infinite finally got a release date, which is December 8th. I think it is.
December 8th. Because we had the beta recently, didn't we? And there was people giving out spoilers for that. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Bastards. But now we know, okay, December. That's cool. That's near my birthday. So that'd be a good birthday present.
Indeed. So, we finally got a release date on that, which is great. We did discuss about the fact that some of the features are going to be cut. But I think, ultimately, it was a good decision for them to make, because if it wasn't in December, then it wouldn't have done too well. Yeah, wouldn't have done too well. Horizon Forbidden West. Also got a release date.
We knew it was February, didn't we?
Yeah, it's February 2022. But it's official now. Before
official.
It was kind of funny, actually, because like when we spoke about the delay, it wasn't official. It was just widely reported on by multiple people. So it was sort of like, okay, this is true.
Because
like
I always had it.
Sources.
I had it in my head that it was official. So I just
everyone.
I just assumed it was.
Yeah.
But now it is official.
It's official now. Yeah. So they were right. They called it. It was right. So
I'm fine with that. Take as much time. Just get it.
Let it cook,
good.
baby. Let it cook.
Don't bring it out too early.
Yeah.
Don't bring it out too early. I might even wait a bit to get like a patch done. Like I might do that, because I played it with the DLCs and everything included, and it was all the updates and it was seamless. So I don't want. I want that again.
Yeah. No, it's going to be good, man. It's going to be good. Death Stranding Director's Cut also got some new information. If you haven't played it, I thought
it was a rumor.
No, it was already announced. They announced it, but they showed off some more stuff, like the new mechanics.
Is it called Director's Cut?
Yes.
Is it called director's cut?
is called director's cut.
But he didn't like the fact that it was called a director's cut, did
Yeah,
he?
but Kojima doesn't get a say in this. This is all Sony
Fine.
at this point. So yeah,
Okay.
Sony knows what Sony does. What else was shown? First look at Call of Duty Vanguard gameplay.
Oh yeah, I've seen the trailer for that, so I did check the trailer out for that, and I saw, was it Laura Bailey?
Yeah,
she plays one of the Russian, a
the
Russian
Soviet
sniper.
Yep.
Yeah,
And there was like,
so
I
cool.
want to put something to bed right now because something that annoys the hell out of me whenever I see it. But when people say that there was no women that fought in World War II, this is a lie.
French resistance for one.
French resistance for one, and secondly, the most famous of them is the Russian snipers, female Russian snipers. Like they kicked ass during World War II. If you go and read a book, if anyone's complaining about this, slap them sideways because they don't know what the hell they're talking about.
If anything,
they did some work on the Germans.
Resistance had more, more guts than like some of the guys. Because they didn't have any guns or anything. They were doing like espionage.
Yeah.
And that's like, you got to go in and talk to the people that you're trying to overturn. That's like, to me, that's more scary than like holding a gun and shooting it over a fence. I mean, obviously, that sounds really controversial. But what I'm trying to,
I know what you're
saying,
make is... It sounds
yeah.
very blasé, but I know what you're trying to say.
But anyone that thinks the women didn't fight in the wars,
Yeah,
they did.
Read a book. That's the only thing I can say.
The women in the Auxiliary Air Corps in the UK, they would be flying Spitfires and Hurricanes when they were out of the factory all over the UK
to test them out.
During Battle of the Britain time, during the Blitz time. They would be transporting them to the different airfields. They didn't have any freaking ammunition, so they couldn't even defend themselves. Yeah. But they were still just like delivering them.
Yeah,
yeah. So they were flying a Spitfire that couldn't fight back. So
that's balls.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
That's why I used the word guts.
Right. Yeah. Fair play. That was fun. Yeah. I mean, other than that, it was just sort of
the Vanguard trailer. Yeah, that was great.
It looked
Traversing
pretty
up the
good.
walls and seemed to be a bit of stealth element to it, and the sound looked great, and the graphics looked great, and the guns looked great, and sounded great. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, to each their own. I know like there's a lot of people that are planning to boycott that game due to Activision Blizzard's sort of involvement in it, but from what I understand, like the whole aspect of that court case, like and sort of thing that people might be missing is that the fact that is more on the Blizzard side. So I wouldn't be so quick to judge if this was Activision. Like they've only recently merged.
Activision, yes, mostly Activision, a little bit of
not say that Activision is completely clean in any of this, like and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Like I frankly just don't know. But if you are making that decision for yourself, then I suggest that you go and do your research on that sort of stuff.
Do some research
and check if it is. Also, like I'm not sure what studios are actually involved with Vanguard.
And when we say that means don't go on Twitter.
Yeah, don't.
When we say do research, yeah.
Twitter isn't research. Twitter is just a soundboard for idiots like us that just shout crap into the void.
Just shout nonsense, yeah.
Right.
And then listen to our own echo chamber to know that we're doing
and then we go ahead and make a podcast so we can give them worse opinions.
Prejudice.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
There we go. That's what we do. But yeah, other than that, there was only a couple of other little bits. I think there was like a DLC for Super Monkey Ball, which has got a Persona character in, which everyone was talking about. I was like, I don't care.
Missed that.
There's that, I guess. And then there was a new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game announced called Shredder's Revenge. Some people are into that. I don't know.
Platform, what's it? Graphics, what's the style? Because there's been a million Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games.
That was a good question. I think it was... it's almost like pixel art, which is weird. Like an old school like Genesis pixel art game, almost. It might even be like a remake or a remaster of like an older... I'm completely out of the loop on Ninja Turtles, as we can't tell. So, yeah, don't hold me accountable to any of this information.
Okay.
If you're into Ninja Turtles, then go and look it up, because I'm, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. If I'm being honest. But yeah, there was also some stuff shown on Elden Ring. They had a good preview event as well. So, yeah, cool. lots of cool stuff, lots of confirmation of certain information like release dates and seeing more stuff of what we already knew about. Not too much shown other than Saints Row, but there's been a couple of game releases this week which are doing pretty well. So No More Heroes 3 got
Right.
released. That's been getting really weird reviews. Like I think like GameSpot gave it a 4, and then Easy Allies gave it like a 10 out of 10. Like it's just this weird range of stuff. So I guess like if you're into No More Heroes, then you're probably going to be into it. But if you're not, then you're probably not going to be. I guess
Is Psychonauts 2
it's another
on
one I was going to mention.
Game Pass?
Yes.
And are you going to check it out?
I need to play Psychonauts 1. I think that's going to be on my list pretty soon.
I think so, because there's so many. It's continuing from the game 16 years ago or something.
Yeah,
So it's like
a PS2 game, literally a PS2 game.
Really, right? It's continuing on from this character's journey. So I think he like becomes a Psychonaut, and then like the game carries on literally as the first one.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I saw the reviews come out, because I watched a couple and I read one, but people are praising the hell out of it.
I've watched some of the gameplay. It looks really cool.
Yeah. People are saying
And
it's
gross.
a Game of the Year contender as well. So
Gross and charming and funny and well written and quirky and
very Jim Schafer. Yeah, not Jim Schafer. Tim Schafer. Sorry, the guy that made it. He also made Broken Age and a load of other games. Like if you don't know who Tim Schafer is, then you need to go and look at his back catalogue. He's a legend in the industry. But yeah, I actually know one of the art directors there. She was one of the art directors on South Park Fracture But Whole. I worked with her directly. So
you worked with her on. Right, cool. Well, there's definitely some funny, cool, outrageous environments.
Oh, yeah.
That are just really intriguing and gross and funny and clever and so many weird words jammed together to describe what I've seen of this game so far. So
yeah, I mean, it looks great though. You know, like that's the only thing I can say about it is that, you know, there's a lot of people are loving it. Game looks fantastic. I'm really interested in it now, especially after reading reviews. I need to go back and play the original so I actually know what the hell is going on. So yeah, I'm looking forward to jumping into that one. I think it's gonna be a good one. But other than that, man, I think that was I think that wraps up the week pretty well. There wasn't much else talked about.
Yeah.
People talking about 12 minutes, which we've already spoken about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we miss anything else? We've been on for an hour.
Yep. I think we can wrap it up there.
So yeah, next week you'll try and find someone.
Yeah. We should probably mention as well. Like we should probably mention this at the very beginning of the show, but we apologize for last week. I'm gonna explain what happened real quick.
What happened, Vin? Why wasn't
it was all
we
my fault. It was actually all my fault, and the fault was that there was a heat wave here in Montreal, and it wasn't just a heat wave. It was like the mother of all heat waves. The humidity was through the roof, and we had floor units set up, and there was fans everywhere. It was super loud. There was just no way that we could record, just purely because of the audio version would have been completely messed up. Just you wouldn't have been able to hear anything over the fans. So yeah, I'm glad that we did. I also, Hot and Bothered podcasts probably aren't going to be the best thing in the world to listen to. Just me getting angry at everything. Like, God damn it, like it's like this heat.
Yeah, if I'd have told you about the boyfriend dungeon stuff last week, I don't know what you'd done.
I would have been angry. Yeah, it was bad. It was really, really bad. But finally, the heat wave we had, it was a really long one as well. It went on for about 8 days.
A couple of days I can manage, but then when it just drags on, it gets longer and longer.
It just lifted.
Your patience get less and less.
Yeah, it just lifted on Friday, like Friday morning. It just finally lifted, and we could open the windows, and it was like, I forgot about this. I forgot how normal life was before. So it was good to see the back of it, as it were. Because Canada is very much set up for ice and snow and stuff like that. It's like the infrastructure is great for that, but like whenever they have a heat wave, it's just everything falls apart because there's hardly any of the buildings have aircon. You know, like you have to have a floor unit and everyone's fans everywhere. It's just not an enjoyable experience. I'm going to stop talking about weather because it's boring as hell. But anyway, next week, Chris is a very busy guy because he just put himself in a large amount of debt, and he has to figure out a way to paint that debt into some version of a home.
What doesn't make me want to cry. So yeah,
Chris bought a house
for a nice inky bluey black color.
That sounds
so
cheerful.
I can't see where the edges of the rooms are, so that I don't know how big or small my debt is.
That's fair. Yeah. No, I'm sure it'll go well. But next week I'm going to try and fill in the seat with someone. So if you are listening to this and you're interested, then please send us a message.
Hit us up.
Yeah,
we'll try and sort something out.
I might try and poke a couple of people which have done podcasts before with and try and get them on as well. So we'll try and fill the seat for the week, and we'll try and figure that out for you. But we'll keep you updated on our social media, which is a good time to mention. Chris, where can people find you?
On Twitter, I'm at Acrylic Pixel, and I've got a YouTube channel, which is Acrylic Pixel 2. What about you, Vin?
Yep, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Hillfort Games. You can find me on there and some of my finger paintings, as well as some of the indie game stuff, which I do on the side as well. I'm going to be ramping up to do more stuff like that soon. So, yeah, if you're into the indie dev scene, then please give us both a follow. You can also find me on ArtStation. I am Vin Hill Art on there. I do a lot of concept art, so if you're into that sort of stuff, then go and check that out. Yeah, that's about it. You can please like, subscribe, hit the bell icon to be notified when new episodes are up. We do go live every Sunday now, but you can also find, obviously, the episode in our playlist. So if you're into that, then please go and check them out. And yeah.
Yes, leave a comment on some stuff, as we like to read it and reply to the comments.
Indeed. I don't think we had any comments this week. No, we didn't. Live anyway. So.
Oh yeah, I did check briefly, but not all the way through.
Not all the way through. But yeah, until next time,